Welcome to National Liberty Alliance's weekly call. Today is Monday, March 31st, 2025. We broadcast live every Monday from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're listening over Rumble or YouTube and you would like to ask a question or make a comment, you can go to nationallibertyalliance.org and click on our weekly call for instructions to join us live by phone, app, or browser. If anybody would like to email a question, you can send your questions to questions, that's plural, questions at nationallibertyalliance.org. Please support our business partners. You can find their banners on the right side of a website of which the proceeds go to support NLA's effort to save our republic. Also, please support NLA by donating $5 a month or more. Click on the donation tab on the top right side of our website. Okay, we're going to begin with our scripture reading. We're picking up where we left off last week. We're in the Gospel of John. This is the final chapter. We're in chapter 21, read by Alexander Scorby.
Chapter 21. After these things, Jesus showed himself again to the disciples at the Sea of Tiberias, and on this wise showed he himself. There were together Simon Peter, and Thomas called Didymus, and Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, and the sons of Zebedee, and two other of his disciples. Simon Peter saith unto them, I go a-fishing. They say unto him, We also go with thee. They went forth, and entered into a ship immediately. And that night they caught nothing. But when the morning was now come, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples knew not that it was Jesus. Then Jesus saith unto them, Children, have ye any meat? They answered him, No. And he said unto them, Cast the net on the right side of the ship, and ye shall find. They cast therefore, and now they were not able to draw it for the multitude of fishes. Therefore that disciple whom Jesus loved saith unto Peter, It is the Lord. Now when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he girt his fisher's coat unto him, for he was naked, and did cast himself into the sea. And the other disciples came in a little ship, for they were not far from land, but as it were 200 cubits, dragging the net with fishes. As soon then as they were come to land, they saw a fire of coals there, and fish laid thereon, and bread. Jesus saith unto them, Bring of the fish which ye have now caught. Simon Peter went up and drew the net to land full of great fishes, 153. And for all there were so many, yet was not the net broken. Jesus saith unto them, Come and dine. And none of the disciples durst ask him, Who art thou? Knowing that it was the Lord. Jesus then cometh, and taketh bread, and giveth them, and fish likewise. This is now the third time that Jesus showed himself to his disciples, after that he was risen from the dead. So when they had dined, Jesus saith to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my lambs. He saith to him again the second time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? He saith unto him, Yea, Lord, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my sheep. He saith unto him the third time, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me? Peter was grieved, because he said unto him the third time, Lovest thou me? And he said unto him, Lord, thou knowest all things, thou knowest that I love thee. Jesus saith unto him, Feed my sheep. Verily, verily, I say unto thee, when thou wast young, thou girdest thyself, and walkedst whither thou wouldest. But when thou shalt be old, thou shalt stretch forth thy hands, and another shall gird thee, and carry thee whither thou wouldest not. This spake he, signifying by what death he should glorify God. And when he had spoken this, he saith unto him, Follow me. Then Peter, turning about, seeth the disciple whom Jesus loved following, which also leaned on his breast at supper, and said, Lord, which is he that betrayeth thee? Peter, seeing him, saith to Jesus, Lord, and what shall this man do? Jesus saith unto him, If I will that he tarry till I come, what is that to thee? Follow thou me. Then went this saying abroad among the brethren, that disciple should not die. Yet Jesus said not unto him, He shall not die, but, If I will that he tarry till I come, what is that to thee? This is the disciple which testifieth of these things, and wrote these things. And we know that his testimony is true. And there are also many other things which Jesus did, the which, if they should be written every one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that should be written. Amen.
Okay, John, do we have any questions tonight or announcements? And by the way, the queue is open. Anybody wants to get into the queue, to star 6 and 1 if you're on a phone, and there should be a button there if you're on a app or a browser. Jen?
John, tonight I have absolutely no questions. Nobody submitted any this week.
Okay. All right, and there are no announcements, I presume. So, okay, I guess we'll take questions. Let's see. We do have a couple people in the queue. Again, if anybody else wants to get into the queue, star 6 and 1 on a phone. Should be a button if you're on app or browser to join the queue. Okay, we'll take our first person. Anthony from West Virginia, it looks like. You got the mic. Go ahead.
Hello, John. I think I'm on mute.
You're unmuted.
Hello, John. How you doing?
Oh, good, thank you.
I have an announcement that I'd like to share with everybody, and my friend Zane Lawhorn, good brother in the Lord, he's run for senator and in West Virginia here, and he's an optician. Well, he's an eye doctor, okay, and optometrist. And anyway, he started a prayer vigil. You know that we need a revival. We want to restore our constitutional republic. We can't do it without God. That's why you open this up tonight, and every Monday night you have the gospel reading from the Bible with Scorby. We just need to, as a mass of what I call us, we the honest Christian people. We the honest Christian people. We need to turn back to the Lord en masse in a great, great way. We've been praying for revival. I've been praying for revival for over 30 years, maybe 35 years. And Brother Zane has put together a prayer vigil. You know, we've been pretty active here in West Virginia for the last 10, 15 years with the National Day of Prayer. I've done National Day of Prayer nights on the first Thursday of May at my church in Willowbrook Baptist Church in Princeton, West Virginia here. And Zane's doing something different this year, and I call all Christians to latch on to what he's doing and to tell their friends and to go to this website, TakeBackAmerica.com. TakeBackAmerica.com. I prayed with Zane the other night. I said, Zane, I want that website to go so viral you're going to have to put in tens of thousands of dollars just to keep it open, to get the bandwidth. Because that's what we need as a country. We can do all the work that we're doing, and we do the work. And we want to see results, and God just needs to see us in a position where he brings that revival and touches the hearts and minds of the people. But if we don't talk to the people, if we don't let the people know from our hearts to their heart that this is all they need to do is turn back to God, the revival won't happen. Nothing's going to happen. I think we need to put everything on the shelf except talking about our Lord Jesus Christ and coming together under him. During this National Day of Prayer Vigil, the April 30th was a day that President Lincoln set aside as a national day of prayer for when the Civil War was at its height and things were going bad for the Union. So Zane has chosen April 30th for a day of repentance, a day of repentance. And then May 1st is the Thursday for a National Day of Prayer. We pray. And then Friday is a day of praise and thanks for just, you know, just he's got a better way to say it than I do. He go to the website and see what he's doing. Maybe you could just browse there right now, takebackamerica.com. See what he's doing. You might be able to put that website up on the landing page for NLA. This is such an important thing that the Lord's put it on my heart that I need to stop everything and make this number one for the next month. He's always number one in my life. But we need, en masse, to come together under our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ so this revival will actually take place. And that's my announcement.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. I'm trying to get to that website now. It doesn't seem to want to open.
It should be. I was just reaching my computer when I was expecting the questions, and I was just reaching for my computer when you mentioned that I was on the call here. Let me open my computer. It'll take a while for it to boot up. That is the website. Take Back America. I think it's takebackamerica.com. Maybe it's .org, but I think it's .com.
Yeah, well, the website I put on was takebackamerica.com, and it's trying to open up at this point in time. If it was if there was a wrong words or whatever, and there was no such site, it would have responded quicker. It just said to connect.
Mm-hmm.
We'll try it again one more time a little later. I'll try it one more time right now, and then if it doesn't come up, I'll try it again a little later, see what happens.
Okay. Well, that's what I wanted to talk about. Okay. There's other things we can talk about, of course, but to me that's number one right now.
There's only one other person in the queue, so I don't know if anybody else wants to get into the queue. Again, star 601 if you're on a phone, and there should be a button if you're on an app or browser to get into the queue. But yeah,
is it booting up for you? Is it populating?
No, it's not opening yet.
Problem
loading page. It may be down just for a while. So I will try it again in a little while. I'll leave it up there, and I'll try it again in a short while. But if you got anything to bring up, fine. If not, we'll move to the next person.
Okay. Well, we'll just leave it like that. If you have a little bit of time, I'll check back into the queue the way things are going tonight, okay?
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you. It doesn't seem to be many people on tonight, so we'll see. Okay, we got King. What's your first name and your state? You got the mic. Go right ahead.
Well, thanks, John. My first name is King, believe it or not.
Okay.
And
What's state you from?
Right, I'm in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Okay. Go right ahead.
And we've got some questions about convening common law grand juries.
Mm-hmm.
In a county which is far from recognizing that, and who can convene a grand jury? Yeah. So, and I guess one of the questions is also, how does the common law juries operate, in a sense, in parallel with the de facto jury system?
Well, a jury becomes de facto, I guess you would say, once they're tainted, polluted. For instance, the moment that the judge tells the jury, you get to decide the facts, but I'm going to get to decide the law, I'm going to tell you what the law is, and if that person broke this law that I tell you, then you must find them guilty. That at that point, that jury is no longer a free and independent jury. It's just been seized control of. The other thing is the way that they're orientated. They're not really liberated. People have no clue, unfortunately, how to have government by consent. They don't know the Constitution. And it's getting worse and worse, especially with the younger people. The children coming out of school today, I mean, even in college level, and I've seen this just recently on YouTube, where, people ask these college students questions, and they have no clue about America. They don't know anything. They ask a question like, who was the first president of the United States? They couldn't even answer that question. A college student could not answer that question. They also put up a map and asked them to show where is the United States, and they could not find the United States. That's how seriously bad it is. Children can't read a clock. They can only read digits. They can't look at a map. They can't read a map. They can only follow their GPS. And we're moving closer and closer to AI taking more and more control of our lives and our intellect, to the point when people will be just outright morons if they don't have their robot with them. That's how bad, and that's where it's heading to. That I see is the biggest danger, the destruction of man's mind and eventually mankind. So that's a huge, huge problem. So people have no clue. And so I know a lot of people are trying to get grand juries going, and I always try to tell them this is not a time for that. First of all, you do have to be educated. You have to come with a sense of honor, justice, and mercy. You got to come not with anger and vengeance, and we got to do something about these. And I can appreciate that feeling, believe me. But if we don't come with a sense of honor, then we don't really have a good grand jury, or a trial jury. But a grand jury is the same problem. They're led around by a prosecutor who should not be addressing the grand jury. The grand jury, the only ones that should be able to address the grand jury is the sheriff and the coroner. I can't think of any others. In very rare situations, maybe people can go in and talk. But if they have a concern that they think someone broke the law, they need to bring that to the sheriff. And the sheriff needs to investigate, take the evidence, and see once whether he or she thinks that there's enough evidence to be able to take it to the grand jury. Unfortunately, the sheriff is ignorant to the law, too, hasn't got a clue, just like the people who represent us is ignorant to the law, haven't got the clue. And that is proven by the fact that they think we're a democracy. Right there, it just ends the whole conversation. And therein is the problem. Education is the only way to liberate us. Education is the only way to be able to pick up our powers and authorities and be able to have government by consent. I often say that, people need to have government by consent, but the problem is they have no clue on how to have government by consent. They think maybe by going out and voting and possibly responding when called to the grand jury, and that's about it. I mean, nothing could be further from the truth. You're not going to save this nation by voting. Look how long we've been under the thumb of tyranny. We've been under the thumb of tyranny literally all my life. We've been under the thumb. And, we've been under it for a very long time. And it may not have been as apparent as it is today, 50, 60, 70 years ago. But it's been there. There's certain places you couldn't go to, never could. They took out Kennedy. They tried to take out Reagan. They took out RFK. And things just go on. So, it's a major problem. So the grand jury or the trial jury, people need to get educated. Let me ask you, what's the consideration for the grand jury? You said a grand jury, I think. What's the consideration? Or you were just asking about the trial jury. I'm not sure.
Well, I was asking actually about either, but the problem is who is allowed to convene, or maybe allowed is the wrong word, a grand jury in a county which does not have a constitutional sheriff?
Well,
how do you do that?
therein again is part of our ignorance, and it's, and I speak to myself first because I am or was as ignorant as anybody else is, and the only difference is that I decided to become informed and educated in these things. And, and I haven't really chosen that. That's not a choice of my life. It just happened to be where I'm at and what I'm doing and what happened, and I find myself here. So I had no plan to be doing what I'm doing, actually. But the problem is, again, people don't understand their power and authority. Just let's start off with the beginning of our document, which is the Constitution, which sits and rests upon the Declaration of Independence, where the Declaration of Independence, it says we have government by the consent of the people. Okay, in the Constitution, it begins off on the preamble, "We the people," and basically it lays out 6 points, and it says that we the people ordained and established this Constitution. We are the lawmakers. We make the decision. So, in fact, not in theory, in fact, and in law, in common law, any individual can actually pull together 25 people and create a grand jury for the purpose of an indictment. You'd want to try to get access into the courthouse to do that. Of course, they're not going to let you. Pennsylvania is a major problem because they outwardly, without any concern of shame or concern or anything, they tell you they're a chancery court and that they're run by chancellors. And that's a serious problem. Ultimately, the extreme of a chancery court, and you'd find this in Britain, especially years ago, I don't know how much more today, but, where actually a death sentence could be given by the chancellor itself. Don't need the people. And England was a common law nation. England, we go back to England to see the Magna Carta, and they took control and brought those things into the court. And it's been a battle ever since. It's been an uphill battle because tyrants constantly need to get rid of anything that's under common law because it's a problem for them. So, but anybody could do it. Okay. The problem is they're going to listen. No, they're not going to listen. Now, we've done it, and we've done it many times. We've got lots of papers in the courts and so on and so forth. I guess in the beginning, when we first started filing papers, we were a little naive. I was a little weary, but a little naive, thinking that we'll get a judge to listen. We'll get something going. We never got anything going. Judges aren't interested in listening to the people. You just get in the way of all of their power, authority, and money that they keep getting, and you're a problem to them. So they just keep kicking you out. They don't care. And they're tyrants. They all need to go. We indicted every single judge on the federal level. We've got a copy of that indictment right on the front page. We sent it to, the Attorney General, and we also sent it to the President. And we did a number of papers before we actually did that, building up. We did a presentment to the United States Supreme Court. They're not interested in fixing the problem. We did an addendum to that grand jury presentment to the United States Supreme Court. They still didn't respond. We indicted, we put an indictment in upon the federal judiciary, again, as I mentioned, to the Attorney General, and she just got in, so we'll give her a little time. And also, the President and the administration has a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of things that they have to accomplish, and they are dealing with problems in the court. They are looking to get rid of 150 judges. I understand he's gotten rid of a whole bunch of prosecutors. They all got to go. We have informed the President with a presentment to him and also Attorney General Bondi. We sent them a presentment concerning what we thought that should be done, that they all have to go. You can't leave one left in the court, not one. Because they're all guilty of treason. They're all guilty of participating with treason, with conspiracy and treason. And we got to bring people in who actually have an appreciation for who we are as a people, that will honor their oaths, understand and know the law of the land, and apply it, open up the courts of justice. Because they closed the courts of justice a long time ago. I know it's probably a battle in the beginning, 1938, when they started to force the doors closed, and at some point in time they're totally closed. At least as long as I have been dabbling in the courts of justice have totally been closed and locked, and you just can't get in there. And they don't want you in there. we continue to try. And a lot of the cases that I get involved with at the moment, cases that I intend on resurrecting at some point in time, even all the cases that we have filed in the past. So it's a problem. But the answer ultimately is you can pull together a grand jury. But again, if they're going to listen or not, they're not going to. I'm not even going to say it's doubtful. I'm going to say they're not going to listen. They're going to ignore you because you're a threat to them. You're a threat that you're going to bring up all of the crimes that these people have committed. Especially over time, they'll let one in, and they'll have 1,000 coming in, and people will come in with anger. That'll be a wrongdoing also, with venom, and that only makes us become them, So it has to start off with an education. So people should prepare for that day, and that's what we're trying to do: is prepare people for the day that should be coming, and I do believe it's coming soon. I can't say weeks or months, and I should hope before the year is out, but who knows where we're at. There's a lot of battles to be fought, and Trump is fighting, and his administration is fighting a huge number of battles. I think they're doing a great job, and there's no doubt in my mind about the success of what they have planned, and we'll see where they're going at. But anyway, back to you.
Well, so if you were looking for, we've got a exact opposite from a constitutional sheriff, and if you were, I think there is an election coming up, but barring trying to get him out of office through an election, we can nail him for violating his oath of office.
Yeah, well, they're not going to listen to that either.
Well, yeah, that's.
If the sheriff is a crook, if he is a tyrant and working with all of these other individuals in power that are breaking the law, they're all protecting each other. And, he's not going to let you get into the courts to go after a judge or anybody like that. And the judges are not going to, even allow you to be staying in the court. If you find your way into that court, they're going to throw you out. And believe me, they do it all day long. They do what they want. Just think and look what they're doing to the president, okay? And all of these judges and everything that they're doing to the president, they're doing it right in the open. How much more do you think they do, behind closed doors, so to speak, where nobody sees but you and them, and they just walk all over you. You're not going to be heard. It's a real sad situation. Yeah. And I hate to even deliver this kind of a message because it may get some people to feel, well, all hope is lost. And I don't want people to think that all hope is lost. No, our time is coming. And we just continue to have to press forward and keep building for that time by educating ourselves and get ready. And when that time comes, we need to be prepared to move forward with a sense of honor, justice, and mercy, and do what we have to do from the people's perspective to take these SOBs out. And that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
But it starts with education.
Yeah, and we were trying to think of sending, one or two of your books, actually, to the sheriff. I don't know whether he'd even bother reading them.
Well, that is a problem, and I'll tell you. First of all, you got to give the sheriff a chance. Remember, he's as ignorant as we were or are. He didn't get an education. He wasn't prepared for the job he's got. He doesn't know the difference between law and equity. He doesn't know the difference between a judge ruling in a court and a jury and what's the difference and why it must be. He doesn't understand any of these things. He doesn't understand common law. Now, I'm sure that there are some exceptions. We do have a sheriff out in Michigan that understands all this. And we have a couple other sheriffs that have some good knowledge of it, but not enough. They need to be further educated. Don't throw your sheriff under the bus too quickly. The solution is to start a committee of safety. That's the beginning that's the solution. And once you get your paperwork together, you come together, you form the grand jury. You form the committee of safety. You get your charter together, you get your resolutions together, and that may take a couple of months to do. But once that's done, then you visit the sheriff and do exactly what you just said. Get him a copy of the books. and you let the sheriff, you give him a copy of your resolution and your charter. Hopefully by the time you're going to meet up with him the second time, because this should only be maybe a 5 or 10 minute meeting, you let him know we'd like to stop in, talk to you, introduce ourselves. We started a committee of safety here in the county, and we'd like to, introduce ourselves to you and have 5 or 10 minutes of your time. And so when you get there, you give him the papers, and you give him a copy of the book, Government by Consent. There's a couple other books, maybe the Sheriff's Handbook. You're going to want to get a couple copies of that, maybe, and give that to him. And then you let him know, look, we'd like you to come out and talk to our group in the near future, maybe a month or two down the road. And you're really holding off to make sure you got at least 20 or more people together before he comes down. But meanwhile, take a look at the paperwork, and here's a book. Now, when he comes to the meeting, okay, if he hasn't read the book, he's not interested in doing anything to begin with. And if he doesn't respond properly to a lot of the questions you might ask, even if he says he's read the book, then he's a problem again. Okay, you got to give him the chance to see. You may open his eyes. You may, kind of bring him to an epiphany and say, whoa, look at the power and the authority of the sheriff. He'll find that in the book, Government by Consent, and, of course, the handbook. And he'll come to realize, the difference between law and equity. He'll come to understand the Constitution a lot better, and especially the Bill of Rights. But if not, okay, then he's just not worthy of being your sheriff, and in all likelihood, he's a criminal, in all likelihood, but not necessarily so. Could just be a lazy individual who doesn't even want to read. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So that's
But then let me just finish one more point. Then you can talk. Then at the bottom line is, once he comes in, if you recognize the fact that this guy just is not interested in really being our sheriff, well, hopefully by then you have enough people to run a recall. If you got 20 people, you should be able to run a recall on a sheriff, because a recall requires a certain number of signatures that you go out and get the petition to recall them. And once you get a number of petitions signed, then you just serve it onto the probably the goodness, what's it called? But I can't think of it. The
county attorney?
No. You want to bring it over for execution to the Board of Election. That's it. You bring it to the Board of Election. They'll send it up the line, but they're the ones responsible to put the people on the tickets, and they do that by handing in the necessary signatures required on the petition to put a person onto the ballot. Well, it's the same thing. You bring it up to them to bring a person off of the put a person onto the ballot for recall. Now, there may be something like, if there's going to be an election for the sheriff within, I think in New York it's like 9 months. No, not New York. Down in Virginia, I think it is, because I recently came upon this. If there's an election coming up within the next 9 months or 8 months, then they may not do the recall. They'll wait for that election time to come up. But again, you have to check to see if there's some kind of statute concerning that within the state of Pennsylvania. And in any event, but probably not. But anyway, the recall is a 90-day process. You get things going, and then the election, or the recall election takes place.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you brought me up to speed. We've got a committee of safety that's on the land. We've given notice to the commissioners back in December. We've recorded all of our documents with the county recorder, and are now trying to figure out our next step. And
okay, how many people you have roughly?
15 at the moment. 14.
14. Okay, that's a good start. And what you want to do though is ask everybody to the next meeting. Everybody should endeavor to bring one friend or a family member, another person in. Bring them to a meeting, and some people maybe will bring more, but that'll help you grow quicker. But did you deliver all your paperwork to the sheriff and the book? It sounds like you didn't do that yet, right?
No, not to the sheriff, just to the commissioners.
Okay, you want to do the same thing with the sheriff. Remember, the important thing is your charter and your resolutions, because the charter tells the sheriff exactly who you are, what your intentions are, what you're doing, and by what authority. So that's what the charter does. The resolutions, it just makes a lot of points of a lot of concerns that you don't want to deal with, or conclusions on what you think of whatever the case, anything that's going on that is a concern to, what's going on within your county. And so once you deliver that in the book onto your sheriff, you're serving him notice, and you're giving him the opportunity to learn if he doesn't know the law. And it should be an eye-opening experience for that sheriff as he starts reading the book. But the eye-opening experience, if he's a crook, is going to be one of negativity, okay? Mm-hmm. And again, I did put a series of questions up there. Let me see real quick here. Up on by the Committee of Safety, it should be underneath handbooks, videos, and tools. And let me do real quick. I might be able to find it by question. Yeah, proposed questions for the sheriff. You can find it right on that page. Okay.
Okay.
Well, this is what I put together as suggestions of questions. You can add to them, you can alter them, you can take some out, put other, whatever you want to do, But, I strongly suggest maybe to try to follow. I think these are good questions that we put together here. And these questions, again, it has to be planned. I don't know if you're familiar with the plan we put together by going to school boards to build membership through school boards, by dealing with the school boards first and pulling together people within that particular school district. My county has, I believe it's 19 school districts, so we have 19 school districts to visit. And every time you visit one, we have this all laid out in our handbook. You go to a school, first of all, you want to notify all the people within that district that you're going to be talking with the school board concerning the problems with the education of our children, blah, 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 blah. We even put a postcard together for that purpose. You send it out to all of the individuals, inviting them to a meeting to discuss the meeting with the school board, date, time, and place. And when they come, you'll get a lot of people that be very interested, because people have children, grandchildren, or people who are going to have children. Anybody could come to that meeting. So you probably would be able to build up your committee of safety, because first of all, they'll see what you're doing, and they'll participate with you going to the school board. Now you can go with overwhelming numbers of people probably to the sheriff. I mean, to the school board. And then we talked about a writ quo wanto. You should have a writ quo wanto with you. Hopefully you have a sheriff with you too. And that's when you'll start to really, press forward to force these individuals on the board to obey the will of the people, or to leave their position. And a writ quo wanto gives them 3 days. You follow with the court if they don't, which is by what authority they must act by. And so they have to show their oaths that they took in order to take that seat, and the fact that they're not responding to you. But they're not going to respond, because they're just going to ignore it, probably. They all do. In 3 days, there is a legal process now to remove them from their seats and replace them. But again, this is a lot of stuff. It's a lot of, you have to really go through and learn these things. But first order of business is the sheriff.
Yeah. Okay. And you went to this page that's on your screen now.
Right.
And I missed what was at the top of that. Oh, okay. It's about the.
Yeah, you come to start a committee of safety here, on this page, and when you scroll down, and by the way, all these videos will train you on the different subcommittees and putting together your resolutions and all kinds of information. They're instructional videos. They're short, 15, 20 minutes, half hour max, I believe. But you'll come to the PDFs, and you'll see the PDFs. It says proposed questions to the sheriff.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
And then this is those questions, and again, you can add to them. And this will tell you whether you, by the time you get to asking this sheriff the questions that you put together, you'll know by the end of the meeting whether he's a guy that'll work with you and you want to support him, or if you need to recall him.
Yeah.
But you do want to be, you want to be kind. You don't want to be disrespectful to the sheriff. You want to try not to embarrass him. There should be some things you should be embarrassed about, like not knowing the law, not knowing the Constitution, not being interested in learning. But in any event, you want to be respectful, and you want to try not to embarrass him. And
Right.
and when they leave, when the person leaves, then you decide on whether he's worth salvaging or not.
Yeah, this
We
guy,
have a problem in my county, by the way.
this
Okay?
guy's got like 40 years of service in law enforcement, and we don't want to nail him, you know.
Right. Well, that's good that he has 40. Does he understand the difference? He wasn't. Was he in the sheriff's office for 40 years as a deputy, or something, or was he a police officer?
Yeah.
Well, the problem is, being a police officer, he probably doesn't know or understand the difference between law and statutes, and that police officers are actually code enforcement officers, and the sheriff and their deputies are law enforcement officers, and there's a huge difference between the two.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, sir. Thank you very much, and thank you for writing all those books. They are incredibly helpful.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll take our next caller. Thanks, King. Okay, Bob. Where are you from, Bob? What state you're from? You got the mic, Bob. You've been unmuted. You may have yourself muted. Let me see if I can unmute you again. Yeah, you're unmuted now, Bob. There you go.
I muted myself. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. What state
Okay, good. I'm in Texas.
Okay.
So let's see. I'm always the optimist, and I think we've got a really good opportunity, at least here in Texas. Our next election is May 3rd, so that's just a little over a month away. I just counted up the list of everybody that could possibly be on the election for, mayor, city council, and school boards. They separate those from the, November elections so that there's less of a turnout, I think. But there's 95 people on that list, and I'd say maybe 15% of those are contested races. I haven't figured that out. I haven't counted that out because I just did it before you took my call. But I think we've got a huge opportunity for educating people that want our vote. And so what my intention is, what I think we could do, if you have your committee of safety, and it doesn't even have to be a whole lot of people, but as a group, you could arrange to have calls for these candidates, like they really want your vote. And well, actually, that's how I met our Supreme Court justice. He wasn't a Supreme Court justice at the time. He wanted my vote. So I went to where he was at, and now he knows who I am because I recorded his statement about all Supreme Court hearings are broadcast live. So anyway, and he's seen that on YouTube, so he knows who I am. The same thing with all these other people that want our votes for, mayor and city council and all the school boards. They want our vote. So right now is the time where, we could say, I really want to, endorse you to each of these people, but I need to ask you some questions and see if I can help, help you improve. I'm in the garage and there's an air leak, so let me run out. So, just be nice and, find out what they know and offer them a chance of an education and introduce, everything that you have done, because, golly, there's no resource that's any better than the National Liberty Alliance for doing what needs to be done. And I just think, I don't know, maybe I'm just a moron, but it seems like they want our vote. We want to vote for somebody that's good. So first of all, we need to contact them. And, you say, well, you need a little help. We can offer you this class or that class or these resources, and then we can talk again before Election Day. And then our group, like our Committee of Safety or whatever civic group we're in, can endorse you. And, and mention that, we all go to church, and, we're going to be passing out this list of, who we think the best candidates are. And, would like to help you. And, we're really in trouble. And we need to have people in office that know the law, that will stand up to these other tyrants above us, the higher magistrates that are breaking the law. And so anyway, I'm just kind of optimistic that this is the season where we can produce some fruit by contacting those that are on the ballot, even the ones that aren't on the ballot, the ones that will be coming up in 2 years or 1 year or whatever the cycle is, and actually becoming friends. The second part of that is you also meet all those people when you go to your commissions, councils, boards, and courts, and it's just amazing because I get to talk to my DA at least once a month, and I spent 30 minutes last Tuesday talking to the TV anchor for the local regional TV station, just because we were waiting for the executive session to come out, to open up again. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Or
well, you're close to the right track. I mean, generally you got the idea right, but there's got to be an attitude, a position, and you got to come with a sense of understanding and authority, and that has to reflect onto them. Let me give you let me try to build a point here. Are you familiar with the party committeeman? Republican and the Democrats have.
We call them precinct chairs, I guess, or the county chairs.
Well, let me tell you how things work, okay? First of all, generally speaking, usually, and maybe it's different in various places. I know there was a county north of me here that had a pretty good chairman, and it was just the town, really, committee that was freed. The county was not freed, but the town was operating good because of the guy that was running it. And so I'm sure there are people here or there from time, in different various places that may be trying to do the right thing, maybe understand how things work. But you see, when a county chairman makes a phone call to an individual that they got into office by getting them on the ballots, because that's how they get onto the ballot, and says, we got a problem, we need to speak. Are you free on Tuesday, or is Thursday better for you? He's going to have to pick a day, and they're going to meet, and they're going to talk. He's going to lay out the law, and he's going to be obedient. Unfortunately, the whole thing is really corrupt. The parties are corrupt. The chairman, the entire county is controlled by 4 individuals. The state is controlled by 4 more individuals. And I'm not sure how many people are on the national level that actually control it, but it's the same kind of a structure all the way. It starts off with the town committee, the county committee. The town committees are really collective. They're supposed to be subcommittees of the general committee, which is the county committee. But it builds up. And the thing is that they're statutory. They were created by statute. They're controlled by party bosses. They were put in place and in power a long time ago. Ultimately, the whole design was put together by the minions of the New World Order, a.k.a. esquires, lawyers, bar attorneys. Those are the people that created this whole system. They created the political process. They turned us into a democracy. They've taken control of the courts. They removed the common law. They've controlled the education. That's education centralized for that purpose, so we can woke them and do all whatever else and destroy our children, the morals, and so on and so forth. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. And this is all done by the minions of the New World Order. They are the responsible. They are the guilty ones. Most of them have no clue what they're doing. They all think that they're under Roman law. They have no clue what common law is. They don't understand that. They don't understand a court of record. I'm not even sure they know the difference between equity and law anymore. For the United States Supreme Court, by making rules in 1938, combined equity and law and called it civil law, and they're all true believers. So it's very difficult to tell an individual that paid maybe $250,000, $250,000, whatever it is, to get their education, and they're out there being a lawyer and making all this money, and the whole focus becomes a greed fest, and then us uneducated individuals who don't have a degree in anything come to tell them that they don't understand that we are not under Roman law. They're not going to believe you. They're true believers. So therein is the major problem that we have. The whole system is just really defunct, and we have to. The only change to this, the only solution is an education. Okay, that's the only way we're going to get around to this. But the point is this: when and we are the true committeemen. The other thing is to be a committeeman is an unalienable right. It's a right of the people. It's called government by consent. By participating in that process, you are actually exercising your unalienable right of government by consent. Now, they limit the number. Okay, for instance, in my county, in the Republican Party, they have rooms, they have seats for 249 people, period. Not 250, not 251, 249. That's it. And you have to fight for a seat. I mean, they really they really politicize the whole process. And they have no idea what they're even doing. The people that they think they're voting for things, but they're voting for nothing. It's all things of facade, and it's all done in the back room. It's already pre-decided on what's going to go on, who they're going to walk the papers for. They already got their marching orders. That's already done. They just make you think that you participated in that, and then they get you to walk the papers to get these people onto the ballot, and it just goes on and on and on, and when you eventually realize what's going on, then you leave and discuss. But they fill your seat with some other person who eventually will be disgusted also, or there'll be a criminal and fight to get a higher seat to be able to make all the money as a chair, because they got all these connections in the county and all these bids that go out. You'll find that a lot of times lawyers will be sitting in those seats too. But in any event, we are the true committeemen. Unlimited amount. The right of government by consent is unalienable. Anybody who wants to participate, you can. So your committeeman could be 20 people, could be 120 people, could be 500 people, could be 1,000, could be 5,000 people. There is no limit to the number of people that can come in and participate. The more the merrier. Many hands make light work. So, but the thing is this. Once you get a committee of safety going and you're going to entertain someone that's going to come in and ask for your support, well, they can have your support if they do a couple of things. Number one, they need to get the book, Government by Consent. Number one. Number two, they need to take the law course, so they understand the difference between law and equity. They understand the law, the court system, how things work. They understand the Constitution. And as long as they're willing to do those things, then you're willing to support them. The final requirement is for them to understand that you're going to take an oath. You're going to know the Constitution. That's why we want you to do these things. And you need to obey that Constitution, because the day that you disobey that Constitution is the day that you're going to get a phone call from our chair. And the chair is going to tell you that you got a problem and you got to fix it. And if you don't fix it, then we're going to recall you. And then we start exercising the right of recall. You see, this is government by consent. This is taking back power and authority. And if the people don't want to learn this, and the people don't want to participate with this, they don't want to do it, they don't have the time because too many other things, we all have lots of things, okay, well then they don't deserve the liberty that comes with government by consent. You see, we have to exercise our rights in order to maintain our powers and authorities. And because we have not been exercising our rights because of ignorance, and we should have been taught these things, but they removed all that from the schools, and so we have we're just too ignorant to the fact. So either we're going to step up, do what has to be done, get educated, put some time into this, take our government back, and participate with the process, or you don't deserve liberty, and we're not going to have it.
Yeah. I agree with almost everything you're saying, but except I think the influence of party bosses, like in the precinct chair races, in the school board races, so many of those elections are just, a dozen or maybe 2 dozen or 3 dozen votes is the margin. And if we have people that are on a school board that is okay with not having a Bible, that's okay with having porn in the library, that's okay with having gay pride, story time with the little ones, this is the time that and if they have somebody that's running against them, so we call up, that trustee that's got a challenger, and we say, these are all the things that your school board, it's not him particularly or her particularly, but your school board is allowing, abominations to God, and we think, we need somebody fighting for us, and we don't want to put up with that. And you have a challenger, and we're vetting her or him, and we're also training them so that they do know the Constitution. And I just think that this period, we've got like 5 weeks, 4.5, that should be fertile ground for shooting down trustees that have been on school boards, or city councilmen that have been on city councils that have been doing the wrong thing. And their ears are open now, and they should be prime for learning. And I know they're prime for getting, more than several dozen votes by the people in our committee of safety, or the people that regularly attend. We have a commissioner here that's just beyond belief. She's the best one I've seen since I've been doing this since like 1990, and she's the best one I've seen. She's holding weekly coffees with the commish at a hardware store that's just an unbelievable hardware store, and we're getting about 10 people, and like new people, half of them are new every week. And then we just had one on Friday night. She meets at the second biggest church in the county. It's got the most conservative Christian Protestant Protestants, and we had 36 there Friday night. Started at 6, and some of them didn't leave till 11. So
well, let me tell you some of the problems here. I mean, yeah, once in a while you do meet a good person, has good intentions. They still may not know the law or different things, but they understand certain things enough to be reasonably a good person to do a good job. And they themselves have some morals, and maybe they have some power and realization of what they can do in order to deal with the problems, particularly in the school. When I was a child, I remember hearing this from time to time, the statement, corrupting the morals of a minor. It was a crime. What they did in school, and probably still at this point to some degree is still doing in school, even though Trump's making it illegal and removing it. But in any event, these people should be in jail because they're corrupting the morals of a minor. But here's the problem. And if you think about this, you meet people in the streets, you talk with them, and they fall into one of four categories. Category number one, they don't pay attention to anything. They don't watch no news. They're not interested. They haven't got a clue on what's going on. They don't understand. They're just inches away from slavery. They have no knowledge at all. Okay. There's 2 other positions. One is they listen to regular news. Okay. And they get the news either from the right or to the left. Maybe they're listening to Fox, or maybe they're listening to CNN or ABC, NBC, or any of those other crazy news stations. Okay, so that's their reality. That's what they see. That's what they think. They have no clue, unless they are a patriot, and they tell you, yeah, I'm a patriot, then they're following and other news medias and getting the news from people online like a lot of us are getting, and they're being fully informed. Maybe they check out a little bit what's going on in Fox, a little bit what's going on in CNN and all this other crazy stuff, but again, they're getting the news from other patriots who are really working to try to solve the problem and get news out to the people. Okay, so that's the other position, is someone who's a patriot. So again, you have the Republican and Democrat side. You got the totally ignorant person, and then you have, of course, the patriot. So in your walk in life, I'm sure you meet and talk with people, and most people fall in the category, one of the categories other than patriot, being a patriot. And every once in a while you meet up with a patriot. Okay, but all the other people, they don't have the education, and especially the people that are in office, they have no clue on what you know. They don't know anything about the liberty that we understand. They don't know that the Constitution, that they're not being obedient to the Constitution, and that they're walking all over your rights that's protected by the Bill of Rights. They have no clue that the Declaration of Independence is a covenant with God, and that we, the people, the lawmakers, we ordained, we establish the Constitution. We make the law. We decide it all. We decide whether we're going to indict or not. We decide whether a person is innocent or guilty. We decide on what the penalty should be with an eye and a focus towards restitution of the injured party. We, the people, get to decide the law if they try to apply a law in there. Okay? People, they don't know these things at all. They have no clue. And the only way they're going to get this knowledge is by sitting down and reading the book, if they read, because so many people don't read these days anymore. They tweet, but they don't read. Okay, and that's another major problem. And AI is just out of control. I mean, I talk to people, just go to AI. I'm not going anywhere near AI. It makes you a moron. It makes you dependent upon it. It becomes a drug. Okay? I'm thinking a lot of things I could probably do with AI, but I won't go near it. I'll do it myself, and it may take a lot of time to do something. I'm going to write a book. I'm not going to have AI write a book. You can go have AI write a book and go publish it. Again, we're just building a society of morons. That's all we are doing, and I don't know how to solve that problem. I don't even know that there is any way to solve that problem. That in itself is destructive of man. Yeah.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
I know.
I'm talking about focusing on those people that are energized enough to run for office, and we have protest ants at churches that are energized enough to know.
But they have to learn the Constitution. You got to find a place. And they don't want to learn it. They're not getting good.
Every year we offer to all the school boards and the commissioners and the city council Constitution Week. That was passed by a guy that is now our state senator, and he knows me better than he wants to know me. But it was passed in Texas, and then Robert Byrd caught on. But it is part of our law now. Every school board that gets any federal funds shall hold a program on the Constitution for September 17th. And,
but you see that we have something here in New York that requires them to be teaching a civics course, and if they don't teach civics course, they're not supposed to get federal money, but they don't apply that. But that's a good thing. I'm not saying the problem is it's not enough. It's like saying I'm going to give God one day a year. It's just not enough.
We're not in a war and a battle, and it's going to happen. Whoever wins this war. What we're fighting happened way before 1913, where they started infiltrating us.
But back to 1750.
The what?
It goes back to 1750 as far as the colonies in the United States is concerned. And you can really go back to the days of Christ. He turned over the tables. There were the problems with lawyers and money and the money changers and all that other problems he had. It goes all the way back to the days of the Lord and even before that. So, it's been around a long time. I agree.
But, we have this opportunity. People want to get in office. They want to have my vote. My requirement for getting my vote is knowing the Constitution, knowing what their oath is, and and it's really not hard to really get a good grasp by just knowing the first sentence in U.S. law and the first principle in our Texas platform is creation in the Bible, and if anybody contradicts those, then they have broken the Constitution. One other thing that happened Sunday is this church that I've been going to for about 4 months. I was in a room with all the deacons and the pastor, and I made a good point of that. and I could sense their sort of fear of the Johnson Amendment, but and I've told some of them in the past that that Johnson Amendment is unconstitutional. They can't do anything with the church, and there are groups out there that will defend them if they do get in a lawsuit. So, and it's never happened, but anyway, it's. I think this is not, you've been doing it so long, and you've seen so much tyranny. I just can't imagine how much has been that you have witnessed, and your resources, are the real key, and your prayers are the key, and your Bible readings are the key, and the churches are our key, and like we spoke a couple of weeks ago, I guess, about trying to focus on the moms of elementary school students, and so each of us in a committee of safety for the county could be sort of regional by elementary schools. And really get these people on board, and also the ones running for school board, let them know that there's a Constitution Week, and the law says you shall have a program for your school because you get federal money, and this is the law. So I think we have to.
But they probably don't take it that serious because they're only giving it one day a year for it. This is a special day. What did you say? September 17th? I think you said. Is that what you said? But let me just give an example. Okay, if you go onto our site and you really look into it, you'll find it totally overwhelming, just totally overwhelming with the information that's there. As long as people understand, they don't need to get that higher education. They need to get the basic education. Okay, and but generally speaking, out of all this information, to get just the general education that's required to really be a good citizen, and I don't have a problem using that word citizen. Our founding fathers used it 7 times in the Constitution. They're just trying to steal that word and make it mean something else, but it doesn't. It means what it means. But in any event, if you get a basic education, which you put a couple hours a week into a good education within a year, but you have a lot of knowledge, just in that just few hours a week. We need to get it into the schools so our children come out of schools ready to hit the road running, so to speak, because they have the knowledge and the understanding. They have the morals because they're taught the morals, and they understand that what this nation was built upon, who we are, and what and the liberties that we have to defend it, and we have to give back by participating with certain things in our life. Everybody should consider going into armed forces. Everybody should consider. Everybody should really consider becoming a committeeman within their counties, a real committeeman, not the statutory ones, not the Republican and Democrat ones. But in any event, we have to. If these people come and they and they genuflect before whatever this process, and they give them the one day, then obviously, we're already putting it into the minds of the people. It's not that important. It's only one day a week. That's all it is. Some people go to church just 2 times a year, maybe on Christmas and Easter, and they feel, well, okay, that's fine. I've done what I have to do. And maybe they read their Bible, look a little bit on that day, and that's it, we're good. Well, they're not giving really any real concern about it the rest of the time, okay, of their life. So, but I do appreciate what you're saying, and I think pushing for a stronger, statute in your state or in your it would have to be in the state because that's where the laws come from to control, for instance, the education, to require that every school teach a civics course. And if they don't teach a civics course, which includes the Constitution, if they don't do it, then they get no funding, government funding. And that's what you need to push for. And we need to push that probably on a national level, maybe. I don't know. I think we can do it on a national level.
I think we need to follow, the first and the second commandment, and you got to love the Lord and you got to love your neighbor, and not force people to do this. And when people find out that the first sentence of U.S. law is just like the first sentence in Genesis, then it can turn on this vast amount of people that think they're Christians but they're just doing the prosperity gospel. And when you get into the punishments, everything in Exodus and Deuteronomy and all that, and I'm no biblical scholar, although I am a member of the largest.
The Lord speaks about it often enough out of his own mouth during the visitation, when he came into this world and preached the gospel. He preached hell and damnation often enough in his gospel.
Yeah, and that's what we need. And interestingly enough, I found that a Hispanic guy that is the translator for public meetings for the county. And man, he is we got to talk for about 30 minutes waiting for executive session to close when we were at Commissioner's Court. He was actually working it that day, but not in executive session. And man, he is like, I don't know, who are the, on the Mayflower and Jamestown. And he is just a fire breathing. He was right there with our black robe preachers, before the revolution and after. And I just think this is just a huge opportunity. I've got goosebumps.
Oh, I agree. I agree. This is a great opportunity today because a lot of people are waking up. Again, the problem is people don't read and they're lazy. They want to focus in on the things of life, but they don't think that this is part of the things that they need to focus into. They need to give as much attention to this that we're talking about here as they do other things in their life, okay?
Yep. What we're talking about here is the essence of our existence as a community.
Well, absolutely. But
the thing, it's a uniting thing, not a divisive thing. We're all talking about parties, and both of parties are against us. We're talking about issues, and most of those issues can be solved with the first sentence of the Declaration.
No republic can what's the word I'm looking for, is survive political parties. No republic, okay?
Right.
You have political parties, it just doesn't work with a republic. Our founding fathers were so crystal clear about that, and the thing is that you are right. We can't force an individual to honor God, believe in God, or any of those things, or push our beliefs on anyone, or make that a requirement to become, you're going to go into office, you have to believe this, and we can't do that. You're absolutely right on that. I think you made that one point, but you added something else that I think you're wrong on, and that is that forcing them or requiring them to learn and know the Constitution, because they have a duty, and if they don't want to learn and know the Constitution, we better not be voting for these people. And we need to take people out of office that refuse to learn, because if they don't know the Constitution, they can't give their oath. I mean, look at Biden when he was talking, and he started to talk about one of the Bill of Rights. I forget. No, it might have been. I forget what he was talking about. Something with the Constitution. It might have been the preamble. And he went through 3 or 4 words of a quote, and he started to study. The thing. I mean, gosh, here's the President of the United States doesn't even know anything about the Constitution. He's a criminal. So
it was the same thing with Elena Kagan and Chuck Grassley when they were vetting her, in the Senate, and they went through about all men are created equal, and what it says. They didn't know, and Elena Kagan didn't. She was the one at Harvard that removed the requirement for the Constitution for the students at Harvard, and they started off there. Both Harvard and Princeton and Yale. Their foundational principles are all about God. Okay, now we don't have to get everybody. This will grow organically. And there are people there that know the Bible, but they don't know that the first sentence of U.S. law is, all our statute laws are protected by Blackstone's most famous quote: "No human laws should be suffered to contradict creation or the Bible." So they have to know the Bible first. And then when they get exposed to some legislation or something that going at school board or city council or whatever, if it conflicts with that, that's a huge red flag, and these people can stand up. And I think when people see just one person standing up or several people standing up or dozens, it will grow. And right now, there are people that want our vote. And the only way they can get my vote, is if they know that creation in the Bible are the foundation of American law, and the Constitution was written to protect those principles, and that consent of the governed, the third sentence of the Declaration, and then all men are created equal. That's the uniting thing that we can get people, less focused on the parties. But, what really
we have to get rid of parties, and we have an opportunity.
Right. I know. Okay, well, here's the deal. What really got me was finding out the first sentence, and then when I saw the platform, the first sentence in that is creation in the Bible. And then also I got Bradley Dean, and I would really like you to hook up with Bradley Dean somehow. He knows the Bible like nobody's business. Anyway, I sent him the platform of our party, and he took those 270 platform items, and like 72 or 79 of them have Bible verses that are related to those platform things.
Well, everything, all our documents are really just dripping with really the common law, which comes from the Bible. I mean, look at the preamble of the Constitution. One of the things that they have to take care of and provide for is to secure the blessings of liberty. It's written right there in the very beginning, in the preamble. Let me quickly read through this. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, which is to establish justice, that brings us unto common law, ensure the domestic tranquility, which they surely don't do that, they cause all kinds of problems, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. Those are 6 points right there that they are required to do, and they ignore it, and they don't exercise these things, and they don't provide anything to really do this. I mean, we now have a group of people in Trump's administration that really, wow, what a group of people that he has chosen to bring together to deal with these problems. And I think we have a good opportunity. One of the papers we've sent to Trump from the perspective of the grand jury, the Unified United States Common Law Grand Jury, was that, we have an opportunity to get rid of parties because no Republicans survive parties, political parties. And I shared with him Washington's farewell address, which 2/3 of it spoke about the destruction of our nation by parties. Parties would be the downfall of this nation. Jefferson said it would be the courts. Washington said it would be the political parties. They were both right. Right now, the political parties, they've been using this to destroy Trump in whatever way they can. Now they're completely neutralized. They have no more power, no more authority. No one's listening to them. So what they now have the courts moving. This is their final blow. They have nothing else left after that. They're done. But I think it was Chief Justice Jay. Going back to the very beginning, Marbury versus Madison. I don't know if it was in that case, or it may have been another justice, but for some reason I think it was him, who said that the Constitution couldn't be understood unless you understood that it is a common law document, that is without the common law. It can't be understood without the common law. It doesn't take effect. That's because of the unalienable rights, which is the Bill of Rights, which list out some of our unalienable rights, the general ones. That's the measuring stick by which we measure justice by. Because once they violate one of those rights, and we have many, many more rights, right to travel, right to due process, due process is covered in there, right to practice law, right to do many, many things, And but once we take that ruler, that's the ruler, anything they do, anything they say, any law they write, we lay that ruler up, and if it doesn't pass the bar, so to speak, from our ruler, then it's out of there. It's null and void, and we nullify it. People need to understand the power of nullification. We told Trump also that, we shared with him what Jefferson did. You have the power, just nullify them. They have no power authority over you. And I think they're talking in those terms right now. As a matter of fact, I heard the word nullify came up, and I'm pretty sure out of the mouth of Bondi. That's powerful if she understands that. They're moving towards the right direction. You know, I got to get books out to them, but I haven't had the opportunity, fund-wise, to be able to do that yet. But I got to get about 40 books out, so one to every one of the people in his administration, with some certain congressmen and senators. But go ahead.
Okay. So, you know, at our founding, we had a party of Protestants, Protestants, and they were all united on God, and they wanted to protect those rights that are in the Bible. And so what I would like to really pray, I am going to pray, you are so good at writing books, I would like to see you write one on this plan to start at the bottom rather than at the top, because we can't have any effect at the top, but we can have effect at the bottom, and that's our city council, and we've got 95 people that are listed on as occupants or candidates for those petitions at this election coming up May 3rd. And so if I had a book or a pamphlet or something, just doing, first of all, let's do like an abstract, sort of the general principles of how we, the lowest of the low, which is me, and my elementary school neighborhood, how we can grow it the way our founders did, with the Protestantism and their trembling fear of the Lord. And, I think I'm almost euphoric about this idea. I'm not a good writer of instruction manual. I'm not a really good teacher, even though I taught chemistry at Texas A&M. But,
let me respond a little bit to that, and then we're going to move on. I'll give you a final word before that, because we do have a couple more people in the queue. But there's two handbooks up here. That one is a common law handbook for the grand jury or the petit jury. Both of those are really good books that'll help to teach anyone about the common law. But the county sheriff common law handbook, which was written specifically for the sheriff and his deputies, it's still a good book to be given to people who are running for office. Okay, I thought I published a book. I know I have another book here that. Let me see. Okay, no, I don't have one up here. There's one I didn't publish yet. I got another book. I'm pretty sure. I thought I had published it on. It's a handbook for elected officials. Okay, I'll try to get that up there.
Yeah, that'd be great. But once again, you are so good at writing books, and I think if we go back to square one and start with the Protestants, and especially those that are running or holding office, and I think we can grow this thing, and we will have a revivolution, and with God anything is possible, and if we just make Him the center of our efforts, and I would and if it's not God, it's the laws of nature's God, which is the revealed law of the Bible, and use that as our foundation. And if we just had a little, comprehensible for people that haven't even picked up a constitution, much less read the preamble or the first sentence of the Declaration. I'm euphoric, and I think you're the man to do it, because you've got all the material. These people are going to be, they're going to be overwhelmed with, and I am overwhelmed with the website, but everything I see there I just love. I've printed out at least 3 copies of the Sheriff's Handbook and then all the other handbooks, and I'm passing them out. What I've been doing lately is I've now bought 6 sets of commentaries on the laws of England, which is what our founders were studying before they wrote the Declaration and 22 years before they wrote the Constitution. And the most recent one that I passed out was to a black government teacher at our local junior college. And, he was just so thankful to receive that. And I said, this is in Old English, so it's going to take you a while. And then I ran into a bartender at Celebration Restaurant in Dallas, and he's a Hispanic guy. And I gave him the link to the lonang.com, which is the laws of nature. And that website is not as extensive as yours, but it's just totally focused on everything about the laws of nature and the laws of nature's God. And I'm going to be calling him. Tomorrow's his day off, and we're going to be going over what he's learned from what I gave him about Blackstone at the LONANG. And if I was more familiar with your website, I could probably focus on the Blackstone stuff there. But anyway, I just think it's just such a huge opportunity now. I'm goosebumpy and I'm euphoric.
All right, well, we're going to moving on, but I just want to share one other thing with you. You know, I guess there was a book that I've written that I thought I published this book, and I didn't. And this book is written for Elected and Appointed Servants Handbook. Okay?
There you go. Oh, wow.
And you can download this, and I'm going to endeavor this week to work on this to get this up onto Amazon as another handbook. It's 82 pages, at least at this size. I'm not sure what the dimensions are on this, but it's going to be in a handbook form, and you'll find it under come and start a committee of safety, handbooks, videos, and tools. You click on that, and here you'll find PDFs and you'll find Word. Well, this is just in PDF form, and it's in this section here. Let's see, here it is, Elected Officials Handbook. Okay, now I thought I published that one. I guess I didn't. It's pretty much written and ready to go. It just it'll probably take me a day to format it, upload it, and get it going. So I'm going to endeavor to do that this week to get this book. But meanwhile, you can, all my handbooks you can download for free, so people can get them on this page. And if they want the handbook in a in a form that is a book, it is much more powerful if you're going to hand it to somebody. You can then get those handbooks up on Amazon by just coming here and clicking on here, and they'll take you right to where the handbook is being sold. And they're not that expensive. Like, this is $7. If I had lots of money, where I can go out and print off 100,000 of this one and 100,000 of that one, and I could get them done pretty cheap, and I could probably sell them for $1 a piece, and still have money that'll come into, assist and hold, NLA up. But I will endeavor to get that handbook up here, and I will try to do that this week. I can't believe I forgot to get that book up there. And then I got another book I'm working on, which is really a collection.
Let's stay on that one right now. My bookkeeper found an IRA that had gone to the state, and we're in the process of getting that money back. And
just so you know, we got to go quick because I got 2 other people in the queue, and
I would like to use that money to buy many copies. Like, we got 95 people that are in this list that are holding the local offices that have the election's going to be May 3rd, and I would like to put it in the hands of each one of those candidates that's in a contested race. So that would probably be like 20 of them. So I would like to read what you're going to publish. And if I'm good with it, then I'd like to buy 100 of them, because when we go to vet these people, we have something to offer them so that they can learn. So I'll commit. If I like to, I guess it's time for me to hang up. But if I get it, read it, and if it's 57 pages, that's perfect. And I'll buy a bunch of copies.
Right, well, this handbook is about 80 some odd pages, and I think it depends. I don't know how big that the PDF copy was as far as the size of that, but if it's reduced to the proper size, then we could probably get it up there for about $7. And so, you don't make much on the handbooks, at all really, and you make $1 or $2 at the most, and. But, but every dollar counts, and it goes to support National Liberty Alliance, and I'm really pushing hard to get enough money to send out. I want to purchase 40 books of the government by consent and get them out to, again, the people in Trump's administration and some good senators and congressmen that are working diligently with them, like Johnson and numerous others. So But in any event, we got to go to the next caller. Thanks.
Okay.
You go ahead.
One last thing. If you have like a flyer for candidates and how the NLA website would help them learn, I could pass those out liberally, and, I can print them here. I've got cardstock and laminators, but I just need a PDF of a handout that I could give to candidates of what our expectations.
I might have written something for that purpose that you can find on the same page on Handbook, Videos and Tools. If you go back to the page, I got a lot of stuff here, and I do have handouts for people, introduce to National Liberty, to introduce the Committee of Safety to them. But I think I might have something in here also which would cover what you're talking about. If you don't find it in here, you can tell me next week, and I'll try to find time to write something. But right now, the best thing will be this handbook. If you download this handbook right now, again, PDF form, it's 82 pages. Is that what it is? Yeah, 82 pages. But again, I don't know what font size, I don't know how many pages is going to be in a handbook, though.
Okay. But for a start.
I got to go.
Okay.
We got two other people. Before we know, we'll run out of time for them. So.
Okay. I'm sorry to be so
Well, that's
turned
okay.
on.
Not that many people really coming into the queue tonight. So, all right. Well, we'll talk again next week.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Okay, Glenn, you got the mic. Go right ahead, Glenn.
Hey, John. Glenn from Pennsylvania.
How you doing?
Good. Hey, I had a hearing and a traffic hearing, and I presented Supreme Court 4 pages of Supreme Court case law, and the judge. First, I beforehand I presented your jurisdictional challenge. And he proceeded to say that he determined he had jurisdiction. And then when I presented the case law, he looked at it and he said, obviously the prosecutor objected to it. The judge looked at it. He said that the case law wasn't relevant to the case. And I said, are you kidding me? I said, why not? He said, because I've made the determination that it's not relevant.
Yeah, well, you got to remember, most of those guys, they have no law experience. They're not lawyers. Sometimes they are. Don't get me wrong, but generally speaking, they're not. And they are taught. They go to a judge class, which I hear is a week long. I don't know how many hours a day, but whatever it is. And they train them in a lot of stuff. Mostly, they train them how to deal with people like you coming in causing problems. Okay, and they also teach these people. And I've been in an administrative court. And this is the days of my ignorance, total ignorance, but I was just starting to learn, realize there's problems, and I was in an administrative court, which I didn't belong there, but I was there, and I pulled up the things on the Constitution, and the judge actually said to me, the Constitution does not apply in this court. That's what he said to me. I couldn't believe it, and I was totally ignorant in those days.
Yeah,
And
I had that.
That's what really pushed me. It was situations like that that really pushed me into doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I went to a hearing just as a witness for a friend of mine, and this was just at the local magistrate, and they asked who I was, and my friend said I was not his attorney. I was just an advocate, and he had a right to have an advocate, and they certainly didn't like that. But then finally, the magistrate asked me a couple of questions, and I made the comment, is this a constitutional court? Boy, he turned all shades of red. He said, "That's it, guilty, get out," and he pointed toward the door. So
yeah, they're totally ignorant. They have no clue what they're even doing there. They don't want people in there that know the Constitution. They don't want people in there that understand the law. They don't want people who are educated. They want stupid morons in there that are ignorant. They may be smart in other things, but as far as they're concerned with the law, totally ignorant. And we see what people that they send up to the Senate. It's totally unbelievable. Some of the people that try to get onto the federal bench, and some of these people, maybe they've had hearings in Social Security hearings or different administrative hearings, maybe the Department of Labor. and they're going to go up and deal with cases on the federal court, and this is their experience,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's totally non-lawyer. It's unbelievable,
Yeah.
unbelievable. But you know what? We deserve everything we're getting at this point because look at it is the opportunity to see what's going on. It is the opportunity to become educated. There is the opportunity to take this nation back. And people are not stepping up to do it. You know, we have to hit critical mass to really, really do good. We've been struggling for critical mass for a long time. We haven't hit it yet. One day, if we hit that critical mass, that's when the success of what we're doing is going to happen because that's when we're going to get enough people to really funnel in and really start to fill the positions in their counties and take control of this whole thing.
Yeah.
We will have to be careful because you do get people that seek power, you know, and it's all about them. You know, you can figure them out after a while. They become nauseating, but
Yeah.
you know, they're either psychopaths or sociopaths, and they seek places of power. That's what they do, and they seize it as much as they can. They sound pretty good. They're very nice and everything in the beginning, but they do reveal themselves after a while. But
Yeah.
that could be destructive to what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we're in a good position. Hopefully, we just we've got some momentum. Hopefully, it just keeps building. But so I presented another jurisdictional challenge, and I actually got a response back from the assistant district attorney, which I didn't really expect to get a response back. But he just goes through and just makes claims that the court does have jurisdiction. And that I do not have a. I'm sorry.
You know, it's interesting that they responded. I would definitely seize that opportunity, because you see, if they responded with all the garbage that they respond to, they're not rebutting what you put in. Okay, and therefore, if they didn't rebut it, you could then write a paper that they didn't rebut it. Therefore, they acquiesce, they agree, and this is the facts, and this is the law. And then you lay out all the points that you did lay out in your paperwork, that there is an agreement in the court for this. And then when you put it to the judge, you say you have to respond by what paperwork is before you in the court. You can't go into other places. So, you know, they acquiesced. This is the law, and you have to agree. And if he doesn't, then he was biased. And then you know, if you really want to push it to the next level, you move it to federal court for denial of due process, and you chase some money as far as injuries concerned.
Yeah, well, it looks like I said, they responded. It looks like he's rebutting my the claims in the jurisdictional challenge about the right to a jury trial, and he lists some case law that I can't even find.
Yeah, well, that's another thing they do. They play this magic all day long, and they make cases that don't even apply anyway. And
Yeah,
it's relevant because they're usually trial court cases, and they don't amount to anything but a hill of beans. And you know, ultimately, their decisions are suggestions and not law, because you can push it up to the higher ranking places where you get the tribunals. But they unfortunately all too often don't act correctly either. And if you don't make your case right, they'll agree with them. And the thing is that you don't want to get into the trial by jury or anything like that in the traffic court. It's just a jurisdictional challenge. You don't have jurisdiction, personam jurisdiction over my person. You don't have it. And if you think you have it, you got to prove it. Show it to me. Well, they can't prove it, because when you go back to the law, it brings you to traffic court, and traffic court is commercial. It has nothing to do with me. I was not operating a commercial. Okay, so you
well,
know, you have to stay on.
yeah, well, they say they address both of those also. They say that the Pennsylvania Motor Vehicle Code is not for commercial activity, and they cite all they do is cite the code, and then they said that they do have personal jurisdiction because I domicile in the county.
Well, well, they could say the words, but where's the pudding? Where's the proof in the pudding? You know, it's in the pudding. It's not there. But
So
and you
should I
know, it's
should
what
I
they do. First of all, once jurisdiction is challenged, it must be decided. That's number one. Deciding means that both sides write papers and they have to rebut each other. And if one side writes a paper without swearing to it, then it doesn't amount to anything. But they make it amount to something. They claim it amounts to something. And then if they're just making accusations or conclusions on their own, but they're not rebutting your point, then you win. But the bottom line is he biased, because I would say to the judge, you already believe you got jurisdiction. You didn't even look at the court case to consider both sides, and there was nothing to the other side, so you should have ruled for me because I'm the only one that has anything before the court.
Yeah.
Okay? No one has rebutted it, so it stands as truth. Remember, there is a statement, an affidavit unrebutted stands as truth in a court of law, period.
Yeah.
Okay, with that,
So,
I've got to move on. So I'll give you another minute or two because we have one other person.
Yeah, no problem. So should I wait to get a response from the judge on this before responding to this?
No, I would respond back with a paper stating that they didn't rebut anything within the original paperwork that you sent in, and make bullet points of the points out of that paperwork that the claims and what you quoted, the different maybe Supreme Court rulings or whatever was quoted in that paper. Just make the bullet points and you put the point on. Not getting too deep because you can refer back to the paper, but you stated this and laid this out, and this was the law. It was unrebutted. Therefore, they agreed. They acquiesced to all these points. Therefore, you should rule for the law as I laid out in my original paper. Challenging the jurisdiction. Write something like that.
Yeah, because the little bit of case law I was able to pull up is it's Superior Court case law. It's not Supreme Court case law. And it's
again, if it's a trial, I wouldn't pull anything on a trial. Although sometimes Black seems to use certain things, but I use Black's law really for definitions. When I pull up a case, it's a definition, generally speaking. But then, of course, there's conclusions made by the United States Supreme Court or some other state's Supreme Court, and they're conclusive. That's it. You can use those because it is the law of the land. That's American jurisprudence. American jurisprudence is made up mostly of United States Supreme Court rulings. Okay, gleaming out of that, the essence of common law. That's what it's supposed to be. But then they went and they used American jurisprudence, and they started to write all kinds of stuff in there, and all kinds of different categories, and it just bastardized the whole thing,
Yeah.
So, okay, I got to move on because we do have one person left, and I want to give them some time. So.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot, John.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hey, goodbye. Frosini, you got the mic from New York.
Hello. So, what was the name of the
song? Hello. Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, there is a song out there, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. What was the name of the gentleman that just spoke about the traffic issue?
Oh goodness, it was a Bob. I forget. I was looking at the name.
All right. Well, because I'm actually working on. I got 2 citations for running a red light. I can't believe they gave me 2 citations for the same thing. I think that's like double jeopardy or something. But anyway, the court date is Friday, and I requested deposition, which I did not receive. And looking up the regulations about it, it says that timely, if I gave a timely request, which I did, and then the officer has, I guess, like 30 days to send it, or 5 days before.
If you're going in for a court hearing, and that officer does not show up, you demand a dismissal, the default.
Right, by default. But if they do show up, even still, if they do show up, I requested a deposition, and I have not received it. And I sent it certified mail. I can show that I sent it, on a certain date, certified mail. And then I just did the tracking, And it got hung up on February 16th. I sent it February 10th. February 16th says, oh, delayed delivery, and that was it. The last update was February 16th. It's on its way.
How did you send it to them?
I sent, because when you get a ticket, yes, certified.
Well, you should go to the post office and demand someone to go get that and deliver it. That's illegal. You're sending it certified for a purpose.
Correct.
You should go and make a big stink about this. But do one thing. You've got the dates on it, so it's not your fault that they didn't receive it in time.
Correct. And then if they want to
spend more time for them, though.
Yeah, but it's hung up in the post office, John. It's not hung up in the court.
No, that's the point. It has nothing to do with her. She didn't do it, and that's the process that they chose to use, which is the mailing process, which is the U.S. Post Office. And the U.S. Post Office, when you certify that's tracked, and to go from point to point and get delivered. I just don't understand. I've never seen anything hung up 6 days like that. Wow.
Well, and since then, okay, it's the end of March. It's been hung up since February 16th.
The other thing is you can go down there and serve. Who would you serve it on the prosecutor? You serve it on the court. Where'd you send it?
When you get a traffic ticket,
you send
it in with guilty or not guilty, and on the back where you sign guilty or not, or you choose guilty or not guilty.
You have a copy of all that. Go down to the court and let it be known. Give them a copy of the certified paper that that didn't get yet. Give them a copy of the paper that you've sent getting it now. Have them stamp the front page of the time that they received it. At least it's in the court.
What do you mean the time they received it? They didn't receive it.
You got a copy of it. Take it down to the court and give it to the court personally.
Well, I could do that, or what I'm saying is.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me finish. According to the regulation, they have either 30 days to send the deposition, or 5 days before the trial, whichever is earliest. It's already past 5 days before the trial. So either of those time requirements, and even if they say that it was hung up in the Postal Service and they never received it, that really doesn't stand because they received it in order to issue a ticket date, right? They issued a trial date.
Well, yeah, you're going in for the trial. You play dumb at that moment if you don't do anything else with it, without pushing the deposition that you're looking for.
Correct.
It's dumb, and if the cop doesn't show up, then you bring it out.
Then I have two reasons.
If he does, then you bring it as part of the process.
Right.
Yeah, but
so
the thing
if
is,
the cop doesn't show up.
Hold it. But the thing is they didn't receive it yet. You can't hold them liable for something they haven't received. So the judge, in all righteousness, should just give more days for that.
Well, hold on. If they didn't receive it, why then did they issue a trial date?
You were supposed to respond with your yeah. I think what you're saying to me is that you pleaded not guilty in that, and they didn't receive it, so they wouldn't know that you pleaded not guilty. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. So even if they say that they didn't receive it, you see what I'm saying?
They don't need to receive your response. They got the other half of the ticket.
No, but they're asking them to plead guilty or not guilty, and she didn't make the plea because she made the plea, and so they set a trial. So how could they set a trial if they didn't get the plea? So what happened?
Pre-trial conference.
I'll tell you what. There was a situation where I never got the signature, and it seemed to have been lost, but was delivered. Okay, on a paper that I delivered once, it was delivered, and I think it was certified because that's how I tracked it. But they couldn't find it. It was lost or whatever. So as far as the post office was concerned, it never made it there. But in actuality, it did make it there. So that may have been what's going on here too.
That's my point. But that's my point.
It's a clerical error.
Okay. Yes, it might be a clerical error with the Postal Service, and they can claim that. But
they wouldn't know that unless you bring it up. They've got it.
Correct.
You go in
but
there
my
and
point,
got it.
My point is...
You have the paper to show the green, the little green and white slip paper you have to show with the stamp on the date that you sent it out. So you got that.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I would assume that they received it because they issued a trial date.
I agree. Yes, they received it.
And then also, if the officer doesn't show up, then that's another reason. Now, okay, and you mentioned to the previous person, Bob or whoever, that traffic court, because it deals with commercial only, that it technically doesn't apply to us as on personal.
Yeah, I think that was Kirk. Bob was the person. Kirk. But go ahead.
But the point, right? Well, because if he follows up, I want to listen for that because he was going to follow up with something. Now, you didn't sound very positive about the argument of arguing against their jurisdiction. So
right.
To me, that's like my last defense.
I've got a case, and I put it to the Supreme Court here for denial of due process, and then they responded. The town court responded. The judge and the prosecutor collectively responded with a guilty plea for me, made me guilty, forced me into that, and a $300 fine. And some kind of weird thing I never saw before, something with the state, you had to give them $300, and I don't know what that was all about. But anyway, with that, then I responded with another paper. I gave that, I responded in the court that they answered. This is what they answered with. I put that into the court. And then I included an additional wherefore clause for an additional $1,000 penalty in Morgan silver dollars face value. Okay, so it's $2,000 for both of them, for each of them, with Morgan silver dollars face value, and each one of those, I think the $1,000 face value, I think is something like I don't know, $20,000 or something like that. I don't know what the price of silver.
Yeah, it's about $30 an ounce now for silver.
So it's $30,000, so $60,000 a piece for each of them. They defaulted. I filed for the default. I filed my papers, and I'm getting ready to pursue the default. As far as I'm waiting now for the court to respond with the final default papers. Actually they served the papers for the final to be served on the other side, but I got it late and they reconsidered it and refiled it, which I was surprised. That would have been a way for them to get rid of me. And so I don't know if maybe they don't realize who I was suing, But in any event, because I didn't put judge and didn't put prosecutor in there, I sued them in individual because they stepped outside of their authority. But in any event, okay, I'm waiting for a paper to come from the court that I have to serve upon them, which they have to prove that they have some reason to be able to get back into the court. And for them to get back into the court, they got to prove two things when they default. Proof number one, they have to have a darn good reason for not responding. Okay, and they both can't have darn good reason for not responding. But that's number one. The number two, they have to show on paper there's a strong likelihood they're going to win this case. That means they got to answer. Okay, they can't do that either. So, in theory, and I say in theory only because we have crooked courts, I should win this case and walk away with quite a bit of money.
We're all on your side.
Yeah, then I'd be able to go out and buy the books I need to get to all of the people on the Trump's.
Let me ask you two more questions because we're getting close.
Yeah.
So first of all, if you happen to know, what is the regulation that would require that they dismiss by default if the officer doesn't show?
Well, the default sets in common law as well in statutory law. So, they have the statutes. And remember, the statutes apply for them, okay? Not necessarily for us. But it is in essence, or it is in agreement with the common law anyway. I don't recall what it is. I'll share a copy of all my paperwork, beginning to end, if you want. I'll get it into email to you.
That would be great, because my court is Friday morning.
I wrote a book it's really helpful. For me, it's helpful. and it's, let me get to it, I'll show you real quick. It's books by John Darash under Welcome. And you come down, and it's a common law court handbook. This is really a good book. It's $11. It's 311 pages. It's a thick little handbook. It's got some great information in there, all kinds of rulings, codes that you really want to have at the tip of your fingers.
Okay.
So, I mean, a lot of good, really great stuff in here. And, you know, you go to court, you want to stick that in your back pocket or your briefcase or whatever, you know, pocketbook or whatever.
All right, and then the other thing is, in reviewing this tonight, like, you know, you put in the name of the law that is about the deposition, the fact that the deposition was not provided, and then in that, you know, it brought up a case where a motorist, oh my gosh, so many, you know, I can't stand this stuff, but I mean, endless pages, because a woman got a ticket for going through a stop sign, and they didn't give her the deposition, so it gets dismissed. And then in the hall, the prosecutor gives her another ticket for it. And you know, I didn't read it all, but it's seemingly to...
Well, that's double jeopardy.
I know. And so, but it was in the appeals. What I was reading was the appeal, because they ruled against her, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I can't believe that they, you know, just throw the damn thing out. You didn't have the deposition, throw it out. No, they go and they, you know, land her for a second one, so that she required to appeal and the lawyer and all that stuff. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
but
my
question,
they can, but good.
What did you say?
They want to punish you any way they can, even though you don't deserve punishment. They just want to look at you are. How dare you come into my court and talk to me about these things? Who the heck do you think? That's their attitude. I remember watching on TV where Trump was in the court, and the lawyer was talking about the fact that he wanted to bring more lawyers into the court because they wanted to view what was going on, and the judge said that there wasn't enough room in the court. And he turned and said, well, there's the jury box over there. We haven't got a jury in it. There's nobody that can sit in it. You can't have anyone sit in my jury's box. I mean, that was the attitude of this judge. How can they? This is the people we're talking to. These people, they're all, well, half of them, I think, are woke anyway. I mean, they've lost their minds. They're I don't know, psychologically ill.
Oh, for sure. They're psychopaths. They're just hell-bent on authority and you know, over control. But anyway, so that would be second double jeopardy, right? I mean, like I said, it had to go to appeal.
Yes, absolutely. You got
All
1 minute. Close down.
I'm done.
Oh,
yeah,
you're
I'm
done. Good. We're in time. Okay, we're done for the evening. Thanks everyone for coming.
Good night.
Good night. We'll see you next Monday. Bye.
Bye-bye.